Owen Smith.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm delighted to see the Chancellor has come back to join us for the close of what has been an excellent debate today. To hear the view of the opposition that by any stretch of the imagination this has been a desperately missed opportunity of a Queen's speech, a missed opportunity to address the deep-seated problems we've got in our economy, a missed opportunity to address the problems with the poor quality of work experienced by so many under this Conservative government. Time and time again this afternoon I've heard honourable and right honourable members across the House lament those facts and ask in different ways, where was the beef last week? Where was the bill to address the deep-seated problems in our economy? Where was the bill to address the inequality that is spreading, yawning across Britain? Where was the bill, for example, Madam Deputy Speaker, as my honourable friend, the member for Bootle, put it, to boost our economy through investing in our public services? What a question to ask on a day when this government has sacked 250 BIS workers at the heart of the Northern powerhouse in Sheffield. That's something that this government should reflect on today, as they should reflect on the questions asked by my honourable friend, the right honourable member for Knowsley, who said, where was the bill to revive manufacturing in the Queen's speech? Or my honourable friend, the member for Don Valley, who said, where was the bill on tax transparency? Or the barnstorming speech by my honourable friend, the member for the mighty Jarrow, lambasting this Chancellor and the government for preparing to flog off the land registry as another private sector monopoly. All the powerful speeches by my honourable friends, the member for Penistone and Stockbridge or Aberavon, continuing their fight to stand up for steel jobs, just 24 hours after those brave steel workers came to London to petition this government to save their jobs and protect their pensions. Or where, according to my honourable friend, the member for Makerfield, was the bill to sort out education and the savings crisis in Britain? Or, as my honourable friend, the member for Staley Bridge and Hyde, said, where was the bill to deal with the rising tide of destitution that is sweeping Britain under the Tories? He reminded us that there is, in the great city of Manchester, now an emerging tent city. What an unbelievable token of the failure of this government, that people are living in tents at the heart of one of our greatest cities. Where were any of the bills to deal with any of these problems? Where was the bill to support the self-employed? Where was the bill to support carers? Where was the bill to revert the cuts to universal credit? Where was the bill to really deal with devolution? And I'd ask my own questions of the Secretary of State and the Chancellor today. Where was the bill to save the steel industry? Today of all days, when we've heard a half-baked announcement being made by the Work and Pension Secretary, I do support the fact that there has been a written announcement. I decry and deplore the fact that the Secretary of State didn't have the nerve to come to this House today and explain what are maybe some of the downsides, because we heard scant evidence from the government as to what this means for some of those steel workers. Scant evidence. I've said I support it. He keeps chuntering from a sedentary position. I support the production of the consultation document. I support the fact that you're looking at it. You should have done it a year ago. That's the truth. You should have been addressing this long since. That's the reality. And you've still got an opportunity when you get to your feet in a moment to give us some of the answers that we didn't get from your right honourable friend, the Business Secretary, today, as in who is going to definitely disbenefit as a result of these changes? What will the precedents be set for other industries? Or are we content to see future industries take a similar route, shifting their pension benefits from RPI to CPI with workers losing out? He needs to tell the House how he's going to ring-fence that business and make sure that it's only affecting the steel workers. But come to think of it, where was any sort of industrial strategy in this bill? One of the most telling contributions we've heard today was that made by the honourable member for Warwick and Leamington. Now, I don't know if it's just because he looks a bit like me that the brother wants to come over to our side. He could be a Welshman with an inside leg that length.
You're much better looking.
But it sounded like a Labour man speaking earlier on. He said essentially, where was the industrial strategy? Wouldn't it be marvellous if the Tories had one? I'd love to give way to him. Tell us, where's the industrial strategy?
Thank you for giving way. I will remind the honourable member, but at the end of my speech I did say that for an industrial strategy to happen, you do need a long-term economic plan.
He hasn't got one. I heard it. There was that one soundbite. There was that one belated effort to draw back from the brink. But we did 3.5 minutes of attacking his own Chancellor before then. 3.5 minutes of complaining about the fact that there wasn't an industrial strategy. What do we have in this bill? We had a bit of nonsense about spaceports and electric cars. Well, I tell you what. In Port Talbot, where they're worrying about the steelworks, they're not too bothered about spaceports unless you're planning to stick it in Aberavon and create 1,000 jobs. It's just window dressing. It's just window dressing. Where on earth is the industrial strategy? Where's a bill to deal with the productivity crisis we've got in this country? Greater than just about anywhere else in the Western world. Where's the bill to deal with disabled people who are languishing on the scrap heap under this Secretary of State? Where's the bill to halt the spiralling of personal debt going to record levels? The Chancellor used to talk about the problem of debt. He never talks about personal debt. He never talks about the fact that consumers are now the basis on which he's trying to rebuild our economy. Where's the bill to deal with the fact that our earnings are flatlining in Britain? No, not a sniff of any of these bills in the speech, and many on our benches suggested that's because the government's run out of ideas, that the Chancellor's run out of steam. I don't think he's run out of steam. I'm looking across at him here. He's looking fit as a butcher's dog. He's got his 5-2 diet. He's got a personal trainer on tap. He looks full of ideas, full of it. He's certainly full of it.
Full of something.
But the real reason none of that was in it is it doesn't fit with the narrative, because the narrative is, of course, that everything is just tickety-boo with our economy. We've got the makers marching, we've got jobs for everyone, we've got the new national living wage. Nothing to see here. Move on, move on. Let's just, keep going with where we are. Of course, it's absolute nonsense, because on every economist measure, in every serious analysis of our economy, this government is missing its targets. The deficit, that was meant to be cleared long since. It's £76 billion. National debt, it's meant to be falling as a proportion of GDP. It's now £1.6 trillion. That's £600 million more than it was when we left office. Now, this is the Chancellor who used to talk about not bequeathing debts to future generations. He's increased the debt by £600 billion on his watch. What about business activity? It's gone through the floor. What about corporation tax receipts? We used to be told, I remember it well, that the secret to getting all that extra FDI, all those extra receipts, all that extra investment was slashing corporation tax rates. It's gone down 5.1%, we're told just this week. That is not the mark of an economy that is booming by any stretch. And is it little wonder? Because our trade deficit is at a record low. The gap between our exports and our imports high. The gap between our imports and our exports is bigger than it's ever been. Well, it's 13 billion if he wants to quibble about it. It's a real big problem for him, and it's happening on his watch. It's happening because of this Chancellor. That's the reality of the economy that we're living with in this country, and the consequences for working people are significant. Now, there is the one bright spot that they continually point to, the jobs market, and we on this side welcome those new jobs. I welcome those new jobs. I welcome every new job. I absolutely welcome it. We believe that people in this country are better off if they're working. But that's not going to stop me asking the question, what about what they're earning? What if those people are taking home less than they used to? What if those people see their wallets getting thinner at the end of the month as a result of the poor quality jobs that Britain is now generating? Or what if they've got a Secretary of State for Work and Pensions who is compounding their ills by cutting the work allowances under universal credit? Now, I was at the Elephant and Castle Jobs Centre earlier this week, and I heard what a great problem that is. He's making his savings, because they say it's going gangbusters as people move from Labour's better resource, more generous tax credits over to the less generous universal credit under his government. So he's going to hit the savings that the Chancellor wants from him, that 10 billion, but on the backs of working people in this country. They are the people who are paying the price for this failing economy and this failing Chancellor. And he looks at me across the dispatch box here, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I simply wonder when his backbenchers are going to realise that he is failing them as well as he's failing the country. Because if you look at the record, I think it tells its own story. He is the third worst performing Tory Chancellor on growth in the last 60 years, and he is the worst performing Tory Chancellor on the economy, bar none. And we need to get rid of this Chancellor. We need to vote against this bill tonight, and we need to vote for Labour.